ready to get gang raped again, folks. Let me just put it in graphic terms. It is going to be a gang rape. There is going to be a gang rape by a Democratic Party.
Mental rape that's going on. The children's minds are being raped by the homosexual mafia. That's my position. They're raping our children's minds.
You know, pretty much raping the pocketbooks of the rich to give to the poor.
It's nothing other than a government-sanctioned rape. We need somebody on the Supreme Court who can understand how people in the private sector are getting raped by this administration. Obama said, you get up there and you rape them.
They're going to rape us. They're going to bend us over and nail us, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it.
He thinks these people should have something for nothing because they have been raped. The union people and the disadvantaged, the downtrodden, the poor have effectively been raped by American capitalism.
People in New York, you're being raped by your government. Raped.
Obama is raping America. Obama is raping our values. Obama is raping our democracy.
He's like a lot of other dictators. He's got the private sector, and he thinks it's always going to be there to be raped. The way you get all this stuff done if you're Obama is you simply insult the intelligence of the average American, call whatever you're going to. You can legalize rape and call it the consumer something, and it would pass.
The scourge of illegal immigrants who are running rampant across America, killing our police for sport, raping, murdering like a scythe across America.
Likewise, you could legalize rape and call it the Civil Rights Act of 2009. It would probably pass.
The Statue of Liberty is crying. She's been raped and disheveled. Raped and disheveled by illegal aliens. But you turn on the cable news networks, missing children, rape. Rape, missing children, rape. Rape, missing children, rape, missing children, rape. How about missing country and the rape of a nation? Why don't they cover the real story?
We're the young girl saying, no, no, help me, and the government is Roman Polanski.
That 52-year-old Ariel Castro kidnapped and imprisoned the three women, keeping them locked in his house for a decade. He's said to have kept the women prisoner and abused them physically, mentally, and sexually. And all the women had lived in fear, unable to escape from their suburban prison. Michelle had had a troubled life. Only a year before her abduction, she had been raped at school and given birth to a boy who was then placed in foster care.
Rape, to be a true back alley, what I call back alley rape, is less than 1% of all abortions.
Very small.
Less than 1%.
Very small. And there are scientific reasons for that.
Yes.
The woman just does not, her body does not respond to a rape that would be conducive to making a baby. I mean, that's scientific. That's not my religious beliefs. That's scientific information that's been gathered by people who have no axe to grind in this. So forget rape.
The different dark face of Ariel Castro based on Michelle Knight's allegations that he impregnated her at least 5 times and then starved her for up to 2 weeks and beat her in the stomach and abdomen to force her to miscarry those pregnancies.
If an abortion could be considered in a case of, say, a tubal pregnancy or something like that, what about in the case of rape? Should it be legal or not?
Well, you know, people always want to try and make that as one of those things. Well, how do you slice this particularly tough sort of ethical question? It seems to me, first of all, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
The different attitude Ariel reportedly had towards Amanda and Michelle is demonstrated by the fact that he impregnated both women whilst in captivity, but allowed Amanda to keep the baby, whereas he forced Michelle to miscarry.
Let's say someone gets raped and that someone gets pregnant. Now, there are some people who would argue that if you really get raped, like legitimately get raped, your body, medically proven, will just reject that pregnancy. You know, if you get raped, the odds are very low that you would actually get pregnant because there's some like magical way that your body knows that it was a rape and then rejects the baby.
Over 10 years ago, a 15-year-old from a Baptist church, a very fundamentalist Baptist church, was raped by a 52-year-old man by the name of Ernest Willis. And it has taken a long period of time, but he has finally been tried, and he is sentenced to 15 to 30 years in prison for raping the girl. Now, what's interesting about this case is that after she was raped twice by him. She became pregnant. And when she was pregnant at 15 years old, the pastor at the church, a man by the name of Chuck Phelps, had her go in front of the church and apologize to everyone for sleeping with a married man.
What about in the case of rape? Should it be legal or not?
It seems to me, first of all, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
And not only did someone say that we can reject unwanted pregnancies by rape, that someone happens to be a U.S. congressman. Yay! What better way to give you faith in the political system if you haven't already lost it completely?
You know what it reminds me of? Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely.
Like sometimes a woman gets raped and then fundamentalist Muslims come and go, well, listen, we didn't have 4 witnesses to put the guy away, and that's what the Quran says, but you admitted you had sex. She's like, but I got raped. Well, that's sex. You're going to be punished.
In an article from the Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry, Matt Slick cites Deuteronomy 22:25-28 as evidence that God punishes the rapist. The passage mentions that if an engaged woman is raped out in the country, only the rapist deserves death and not the girl. Why does it have to specify that the girl is innocent? Because in the preceding verses, which Slick so conveniently omits from his article, we are told that an engaged woman who is raped in the city must be stoned to death along with her rapist if she doesn't cry out loudly enough to be heard. In the verses following after Slick's citation, a convenient omission yet again, we find quite a different punishment for a man who rapes an unmarried woman or one who is not engaged. The rapist pays the father 50 shekels and is forced to marry his victim, never allowed to divorce her.
So what else did this pastor Chuck Phelps do? He had her move to another state, to Colorado. This happened in New Hampshire, right? She moved to Colorado. Her family gave her up, right? She was living with a different Baptist family. She had to give up the baby for adoption, something that she regrets now. She's 29 years old now, and she completely regrets. And at the same time, you know, they completely brushed everything under the rug.
With these passages back in context, we can see that the act of rape is not punished as an offense against the woman, but rather as a violation of property rights.
Ernest Willis, when he found out that the 15-year-old was pregnant, do you know what he said to her? He said, well, you're pregnant. I could just punch you in the stomach really, really hard so you miscarry.
That classy guy. And by the way, these are fundamentalist Baptists. I'm sure they're against abortion, unless they knocked up the babysitter, in which case they're willing to do an abortion on their own by punching them in the stomach really hard. Lovely guys these guys are.
Another passage that Matt Slick and many other apologists seem to ignore in their discussion of how rape is viewed in the Bible would be 2 Samuel 12:11-12. God uses rape as a punishment for David's sin with Bathsheba by decreeing, before your very eyes I will take your wives and give them to one who is close to you, and he will sleep with your wives in broad daylight. As it later turns out, this person close to David is his own son. And according to Leviticus 20:11, wives who sleep with both a father and son must be put to death. So God's choice of punishment for David involves the rape and murder of at least 8 women. Oh, and the son Bathsheba bore with David also dies.
When Chuck Phelps discovered that the 15-year-old was pregnant, that's the pastor, he said to her, well, you're lucky that it's not the Old Testament times, because if it was, you'd be stoned to death.
Yeah, you're so lucky that you got raped in this day and age when we only shame you and make you give up your kid and move to a different state, because we'd have liked to stone you to death instead. Isn't she so lucky?
Lucky.
What a lovely pastor. I'm glad that he's still working at a different church, and God help the people that are in his, congregation.
I believe that life begins at conception. The only exception I have to have an abortion is in that case of the life of the mother.
That's right. There are no mothers that die from childbirth.
I mean, the Republican message to women has been, if you're legitimately raped or forcibly raped, well, you have a way to shut that whole thing down. If you're not legitimately raped and you want to have an abortion, we're going to make you have a vaginal probe. But by the way, don't worry, because your life doesn't really matter to us. We're not worried about that because, as Joe Walsh says, there's no way that women are going to die from, women never die in childbirth, right? I mean, this is what Republican men are saying to women.
We Republicans believe that rape is a gift from God. The U.S. Supreme Court has blocked Republican efforts to amend the law on rape, murder and robbery to include the defense, God intended me to rape, murder and steal from people. Though disappointed, the Republicans say they can still take comfort from the fact that God rapes, murders and robs people in mysterious ways.
I think even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen.
Now I want you to take off that blouse. Come on, Linda, take it off. You take it off!
We're on a mission from God.
Really, really great to be back in Indiana. I thank all of you for the warm welcome. And I'm thrilled to be here for Richard.
We need to speak about it in a way that leaves no ambiguity in how we feel about this issue.
So if God gave you your rapist child, well, isn't that a wonderful God-given rape? No exceptions. Santorum, Aiken, Paul Ryan, Richard Murdoch, they all say the same thing. You're going to have that rapist child. You're going to have him. And by the way, in 31 states, they get parental visitation rights. So you have to see your rapist every week for the next 18 years.
Women are just vessels. And if God's intent is that they get pregnant and it has to be from a rapist, what are you going to do?
If God intends for the life that results from a rape, can you say that God didn't intend for the rape?
That I will say unequivocally, Jim. You know, I don't think God wants rape.
Here, God doesn't want rape. God doesn't want rape. It's just that sometimes, you know, if that's the only way that a woman can get pregnant, it's God's intent.
I absolutely abhor violence.
Oh, okay.
I abhor any kind of sexual violence.
Oh.
I abhor rape.
Oh, okay.
And I am absolutely confident as I stand here that the God that I worship abhors violence, abhors sexual violence, and abhors rape. The God that I worship would never, ever want to see evil done. That is an element of my faith. God doesn't want evil.
This guy is doing a whole press conference on what God thinks. When did you become our ambassador to God? But that's exactly the problem, though. So that's why I point this out. Because these guys think that they are, you know, they put on their tinfoil hats and they're like, oh, Lord in heaven, what do you think? Oh, you intended the pregnancies and they should not abort. I will make that law. And then when they get caught with their tinfoil hat on, they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? No, I'm not pro-rape. Neither is God. What are you talking about?
That's what, you know, gets God. God abhors rape. He abhors it, but it is his intent if she's pregnant that she be pregnant. So sometimes you got to do.
Rick Santorum had an interview with Piers Morgan, and during that interview, I actually think Piers Morgan asked him an excellent question. He basically asked Santorum, hey, if your daughter was raped, would you tell her that you would want that daughter to carry that baby full term? And here's what Rick Santorum had to say.
Say about this.
On abortion, you did harden your position on that as you got older.
Well,
why was that?
Well, life. You know, when I decided to run for public life, I was informed very quickly people wanted to know what my position on that was. So I actually went through the process of trying to better understand the facts. It became very clear to me that life begins at conception and persons are covered by the Constitution. And since life is human life is the same as a person, to me it was a pretty simple deduction to make that that's what the Constitution clearly intended to protect.
But do you really believe, let me ask you this, do you really believe in every case it should be totally wrong? In the sense that, I know that you believe even in cases of rape and incest, but you know, you've got two daughters, you know, if you had a daughter that came to you who'd been raped and was pregnant and was begging you to let her have an abortion, would you really be able to look her in the eye and say no, as her father?
I would do what every father would do, is to try to counsel your daughter to do the right thing.
It's a sort of, you know,
and it's
an almost impossibly hypothetical thing to ask you, but there will be people in that position who may well share your religious values.
It's not a matter of religious values.
And they're looking at their daughter saying, how can I deal with this? Because if I make her have this baby, isn't it just going to ruin her life?
Well, you can make the argument that if she doesn't have this baby, if she kills her child, that too could ruin her life. And this is not an easy choice. I understand that. As horrible as the way that daughter and son was created, it still is her child. And whether she has that child or she doesn't, it will always be her child, and she will always know that. And so to embrace her and to love her and to support her and get her through this very difficult time, I've always, I believe and I think the right approach is to accept this horribly created, in the sense of rape, but nevertheless gift, in a very broken way, but gift of human life, and accept what God is giving to you. As you know, we have to, in lots of different aspects of our life, we have horrible things happen. I can't think of anything more horrible, but nevertheless, we have to make the best out of a bad situation.
Rick Santorum helped to push for a law that would limit medical liability to $250,000 in damages. Later, when his wife was injured by a doctor, chiropractor, he sued for $500,000. So he doesn't think the laws apply to him. He thinks they should apply to you. And he thinks, and did you catch the words there? That your rapist's child should be a gift to you. It's a gift from God that you were raped by this person, and then you get to have this baby. What a wonderful gift.
Let me explain something. Rape and sexual assault are complicated experiences for survivors. Some of us fight, kick, scream, and resist at every moment. Some of us eventually give in to save our own lives or to manage the horror. Some of us know that what is happening is rape, and others of us just know it's wrong but don't have any words to describe why. Some of us push the memories down and try to forget, and others of us battle openly with the nightmares and the scars every day. There is no one right way to survive. There is no one right way to feel. And as we heal, we learn not to judge ourselves or to judge our fellow survivors, because we learn that judgment can wound as deeply as assault. If a woman finds herself pregnant after a rape, we do not judge the choices she makes. Now, I'm descended from American slaves, and I have 4 mothers who found themselves pregnant with children whose birth increased the wealth of the very man who enslaved and raped them. But somehow, through the angst and misery of that experience, some of those women found a way to love and embrace the children that they bore from rape. So I do not doubt the compassion or judge the choice of a survivor who carries a rape pregnancy to term. But the whole point is choice, consent.
By the way, I love how he talks about how if a woman gives up the child after being raped, it could ruin her life, right? Here's what will ruin her life: being forced to have that child, or not wanting that child, not being able to access a legal abortion, and having a back alley abortion that could potentially kill her. That'll ruin her life.
The violation of rape is more than physical. Rapists strip women of our right to choose, of our right to say no, of our right to control what is happening to our bodies. And most of our assailants tell us it's our fault. And they tell us to be silent. And sometimes they even tell us it's God's will. That is the core violation of rape. It takes away choice.
So I have a quick question for you guys. Let's say I wear a really tight shirt. Maybe my midriff is showing, maybe my boobs are sticking out. I'm just slutting it up. Do I deserve to get raped? What if I'm wearing a really short skirt and I make it a little shorter? Do I deserve to get raped then? What if I'm wearing an entire dress that's just really tight and really short, and maybe I even throw in a pair of really high heels and extra dark makeup with bright red lipstick and black eyeliner and all the works? Do I deserve to get raped then? Well, a lot of people used to say, she's asking for it. Just when you think the stupidity has kind of ended with that topic.
So anyway, these 2 girls come in from the suburbs and they get bombed, and their car is towed because they're moronic girls, and they don't have a car, so they're standing there in the middle of the night with no car. And then they separate because they're drunk. They separate, which you never do. All right. Now Jennifer Moore, 18, on her way to college, she was 5'2", 105 pounds, wearing a mini skirt and a halter top with a bare midriff. Now again, there you go. So every predator in the world is going to pick that up at 2 in the morning. She's walking by herself on the West Side Highway, and she gets picked up by a thug. All right? Now, she's out of her mind, drunk. And the thug takes her over to New Jersey in the cab and kills her and rapes her and does all these terrible things to her.
And think about it, man. It's already makes your blood boil enough. But imagine that the person who raped you, and it doesn't have to be, it could be anybody, right? But imagine that the person who raped you is someone you despise, that you already knew and despised. It could be, look, everybody, think of someone you don't like in your personal life. That person rapes you, and then Rick Santorum comes and says, oh, no, he gave you a gift of carrying his seed inside of you and then taking care of it for the rest of your life. That's your gift from God. How angry does that make you? And then, if all of that wasn't bad enough, did you catch what he said in the beginning? He's going to guilt you by saying, hey, you know what? Even though you were raped by this hideous person, if you do something about that, you're killing the child. You're more guilty because you're killing a person. And even if you decided to have an abortion, I want to make sure that it haunts you forever because it'll always be your child. Because not only did you get raped, but then you decided to terminate your own child, so you should feel guilty about that rape. God damn it, man. These people have no sense of morality, and I don't even know if they know what they're saying. I guess they don't even bother thinking, what if it happened to me? What if it happened to my wife, as you said? Or I don't believe him.
I don't believe him at all.
It happens to your daughter. You're going to want to kill the guy, not say, oh, thank you, God, for the gift that this asshole gave to my daughter for raping her.
Matter of fact, this is your lucky day. You know why? Because you're with the best lady. You are with the ever-loving best. Matter of fact, I think maybe you should say, thank you, Mr. Rapist, for choosing me. Yeah, you say that. Oh, now you say that! Thank you, Mr. Rapist. That's better. You're welcome.
What's worse than being a rapist? Being a murderer. Being a murderer is worse than being a rapist. At least get a good thing out of a bad situation and have a baby.
So let me explain something to you. When we survive sexual assault, we are the gift. When we survive, when we go on to love and to work and to speak out and to have fun and to laugh and to dance and to cry and to live, when we do that, we defeat our attackers. For a moment, they strip us of our choices, and we heal when we take our choices back. We are the gift to ourselves and our families and our communities and our nation when we survive. So let me say this very clearly to you, Mr. Murdoch, and to all of your shameless endorsers. We did not survive an attack on our consent just to turn around and give up our right to choose to you. Not without a fight. Are you sure you want to have that fight? Sincerely, Melissa.
That for those who want to kind of twist the comments and to use them for partisan political gain, I think that's what's wrong with Washington these days. I spoke from my heart. I spoke with my principle. I spoke from my faith.
He speaks from his faith. I'm sure many members of the Taliban speak from their faith as well. But I don't want them in Washington or in any position, frankly, where they get to espouse their extremist, fundamentalist religious views that women are only to be used as vessels.
And the real sickness is not Murdoch. He's simply trying to put a happy face on the extremist, Taliban-like position of the Republican Party on abortion and on women.
Oh, please send us Richard Murdoch. We need this man in the United States Senate.
A history of Republicans attempting to redefine rape. The idea that a rape survivor can't get pregnant is not new. A report in The Guardian today traced it back to the 13th century, but here are some more modern examples. In 1988, a Pennsylvania state legislator said that the chances of a rape survivor getting pregnant are, quote, 1 in millions and millions and millions, because rape causes women to, quote, his words, secrete a certain secretion that kills sperm. In 1995, a North Carolina state lawmaker said that the facts show that people who are raped, who are truly raped, the juices don't flow, the body functions don't work, and they don't get pregnant.
And then, of course, there's the category of forcible rape. These are all the different kinds of rapes that Republicans believe exist. This one, they put into legislation. This is co-sponsored by Todd Akin and Paul Ryan. They tried to pass this in the United States Congress. It would have prohibited federal funding of abortions, except in instances of an act of forcible rape or if a minor, an act of incest. Well, you know, all those non-forcible rapes, the ones that you don't object to, right? Well, those we don't cover.
Is that he's made really clear what many, many Republicans believe, which again is that if you are raped and you get pregnant, as tens of thousands of women every year in this country do, the most reliable study I've seen from the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology puts it at around 32,000 women a year in the United States, that the government should force you to carry that pregnancy to term against your will.
They want to redefine rape as it is only rape if it involves force.
Because that's going to create jobs.
Well, Lewis, but this is John Boehner, the esteemed speaker,
Hey,
said,
you listen to John Boehner talk anywhere, all he wants to do is create jobs and cut spending and relieve our debt.
well, this is a top priority, and he wants to rewrite the rules that would limit drastically the definition of rape and incest. This would rule out, here we go, federal assistance for abortions in many rape cases, including statutory rape, many of which are non-forcible. Let me give you an example, Lewis. If a 13-year-old girl is impregnated by a 24-year-old adult and is convinced to have sex with the 24-year-old, not physically, but through conversation, through verbal scare tactics, she would no longer qualify to have Medicaid pay for an abortion, no matter how little money her family has access to. Other types of rape that would no longer be covered. Rapes where the woman was drugged or given excessive amounts of alcohol, so, quote, force wasn't necessary. Rapes of women with limited mental capacity. Date rapes. And this is a priority for the Republican Party.
Dr. Ron Paul with the honest rape category. He says, if it's an honest rape, that individual should go immediately to the emergency room. I would give them a shot of estrogen. I don't know what that means. I don't know what an honest rape is and what a dishonest rape is.
Steph Sterling, who's a lawyer and senior advisor to the National Women's Law Center, says this bill takes us back to a time when just saying no wasn't enough to make it qualify as rape.
Well, you got raped, but honestly, it was a dishonest rape. I guess he's saying they're lying about it, and he's the one to judge because they're going to judge everything in your private life. And if you get raped, well, you're going to have to go in front of these government bureaucrats, probably in front of a rape panel, and they're going to decide whether you actually got raped or not before they give you the estrogen shot.
Right? I mean, what are we trying to go back? What year are we trying to go back to? Forget about progress. We're not even able to stagnate. We're actually moving backwards here, ladies and gentlemen, on social policy. Even more absurd is the term forcible rape doesn't exist in federal criminal code. And the bill's authors, they don't give a definition. In some states, there actually is no definition of forcible rape. This makes it completely unclear whether in those states any abortion would be covered if this rape exemption actually happens. Obviously, religion is being cited here. It's sad because if all of a sudden God told people that abortion is okay, they would repudiate God. We know that religion here is being, what is the term, taken hostage to further conservative social agendas. Again, this is what qualifies as a valid debate in this country. Redefining rape so that if a woman just says no, or if a 13-year-old girl is convinced into having sex by her 24-year-old uncle and gets pregnant, well, it's not really a forcible rape, so she shouldn't have access to a safe and legal abortion. My last thought on this is that John Boehner should be embarrassed.
step up to our government bureaucrats that are all in favor of small government that will now judge your life. And that will judge whether you got raped or not.
What alarmed young women in particular in this country about Republicans, which is, wait a minute, they actually believe that there is a difference between so-called forcible rape and regular rape.
The guys who warned you about so-called death panels can't wait to have a giant government get between you and your doctor, make the most private decision you'll ever make for you. You don't get to make that decision. Government bureaucrats get to make that decision. And they'll have a panel that'll judge you after you've been raped. Oh, fantastic. Vote for Republicans. That's what you've got in store. And I don't say that always, say, hey, flippantly, ha-ha, if you vote for Republicans. It's not scaremongering. They say it. That's what they want. They want, it's like you think they're kidding, but they're not kidding. They've passed over 1,000 laws already on the state level trying to restrict abortion. The minute they get another Supreme Court justice, they're going to make it illegal. And when they do, 3/4 of the country, which thinks that it should be illegal, is going to turn around and go, oh, man, you mean to tell me they meant what they said for all these decades? Oops. But then it'll be too late.
Jamie Lee Jones was a 20-year-old young woman working her 4th day on the job in Baghdad for contractor Halliburton, KBR, in 2005. When she was drugged and gang raped by 7 U.S. contractors and held captive by 2 Kellogg Brown & Root guards in a shipping container. She is still waiting for her day in court because when she signed her employment contract with Halliburton, she lost her rights to a jury trial and instead was forced into having her claims decided through secret binding arbitration. Today, the Senate approved an amendment by a vote of 68 to 30 that would prohibit, quote, the Defense Department from contracting with companies that require employees to resolve sexual assault allegations and other claims through internal corporate arbitration, end quote. Okay, so it passed. The idea being that what happened to 20-year-old Jamie Lee Jones won't happen again as corporate America takes over the war-making capabilities and responsibilities of this dying nation. Oh, the vote? Guess who voted no to the amendment? The vote was 68 to 30. All 30 of the no votes, the votes that said, no, you know, if these bitches want to sign up and go overseas, they might get boinked a couple of times. You know, that should be in their employment agreement. Don't worry about it. You know, rape is rape over here, maybe, but, you know, you have some little smartass who wants to go overseas. Okay, well, she's going into a war zone. Well, she wasn't raped by soldiers. She was raped by American Kellogg Brown & Root private contractors, according to the lawsuit. You know? But the 30 Republicans who voted, now let's just keep it the way it is. Alexander of Tennessee, Barrasso of Wyoming, Bond of Missouri, Brownback of Kansas, Bunning of Kentucky, Burr of North Carolina, Chambliss of Georgia, Coburn of Oklahoma. Isn't he a doctor? Cochran of Mississippi, Corker of Tennessee, Cornyn of Texas, Crapo of Idaho, DeMint of South Carolina. Isn't he insane? Ensign of Nevada. Isn't he a serial adulterer? Enzi of Wyoming, Graham of South Carolina, Gregg of New Hampshire, Inhofe of Oklahoma. Isn't he insane? Isaacson of Georgia, Johans of Nebraska, Kyle of Arizona. Isn't he... Oh, never mind. McCain of Arizona, McConnell of Kentucky, Risch of Idaho, Roberts of Kansas, Sessions of Alabama, Shelby of Alabama, Thune of South Dakota, Vitter of Louisiana, and Wicker of Mississippi. Every one of those Republicans voted to allow women to be raped in a war zone where they are... Well, yeah, to be raped, because what they're voting for is to deny them protection of the law. That any charge of rape will be determined through internal corporate arbitration. Do you see how goddamn close we are to a complete corporatization of this country? Oh, well, Mike, that's just one little incident. No, it isn't. It's a massive incident. A woman was gang raped. And 30 Republican senators say, well, that's too bad. It can be determined inside a corporation. And what power to jail someone does a corporation have? None.
Now you're thinking, no, come on, Jack, they're not really going to do that. They're not going to make you prove whether you got raped or not. Well, wrong again, Bob. They're already doing it. Abortion's legal, but in some cases, whether you get state aid or you don't, is dependent on this. So in Pennsylvania, the Republicans produced a bill in the House that says this: elimination of benefits under subsection D shall not apply to any child conceived as a result of rape or incest if the department receives a non-notarized signed statement from the pregnant woman stating that she was a victim of rape or incest, as the case may be, and that she reported the crime, including the identity of the offender, if known, to a law enforcement agency having the requisite jurisdiction, or in the case of incest, where a pregnant minor is the victim, to the County Child Protective Service Agency, and stating the name of the law enforcement agency or Child Protective Service agency to which the report was made and the date such report was made. Welcome to our panel. Do you have the requisite jurisdiction? Have you filed the proper paperwork? Have you identified who your attacker was? Because we're going to judge you.
Okay, and maybe Dr. Strangelove over here doesn't know what he's talking about. All I know is that some maniac beat the hell out of me and then raped me. Now the question is, what you clowns are going to do about it, because I have had it. I am tired of being made out to be the criminal.
Rennie Gibbs from Mississippi, she got prosecuted because she gave birth to a stillborn. Okay, the pro-lifers went into her history, found out that she had a history of drug use, and without any evidence indicating that she was using drugs while she was pregnant, they prosecuted her and she faced prison time. There's absolutely no evidence indicating that she delivered a stillborn baby because she was taking drugs. I mean, her drug use was from years ago.
And then there's a category of emergency rape. Well, this was Linda McMahon running for Senate in Connecticut. It was really an issue about a Catholic church being forced to offer those pills if the person came in in an emergency rape. Are there non-emergency rapes? Why did they do all this? Because they got to be able to sleep at night. And they think, that's so barbaric to have this woman force her to bear the rapist's child. So they think, no, it's okay. God intended it. What a blessing that rapist gave that woman. God's blessing. Or they think, oh, you know what, that was probably a dishonest rape, or an enjoyable rape, or a non-emergency rape, or not a legitimate rape, so you wouldn't get pregnant unless it was during a legitimate rape, you wouldn't get pregnant anyway. So I don't have to worry about that moral problem because I've concocted this insane theory about rape, which allows me to sleep at night, even though my policy is so hideous.
I wish we could have an honest and respectful dialogue about these complicated issues, but it seems like we can't right now. And if I have to listen to one more gray-faced man with a $2 haircut explain to me what rape is, I'm gonna lose my mind.
They say only forcible rape is really rape.
I watch these guys and I'm like, what is happening? Am I a secretary on Mad Men?
Not being able to get pregnant isn't the only insane rape idea. In 1990, Texas Republican Clayton Williams, who unsuccessfully ran against Ann Richards for governor, apologized after comparing rape to foggy weather, saying, if it's inevitable, just relax and enjoy it.
Around and have a war on dumb fucks because there's too many of them running around and I would like to get rid of them, especially in politics. You know, if you're dumb, that's annoying and that's, whatever, I would like to stay away from you, but if you're in politics, affecting my life, affecting everyone's life, going out making false claims like this and acting like a complete moron, yeah, I would like you to not be in politics, please.
Todd Akin? Oof, this guy. Todd Akin claims that women can't really get pregnant from a legitimate rape because the body secretes hormones. I can't even finish this sentence without getting dumber. It's making me dumber when I say it. But it's something about the body not being able to get pregnant when it's under physical stress.
Legitimate rape is great birth control. So says Todd Akin, and he ought to know. make babies, and that is a fact. There's no global warming, the Earth's really flat. We heard it on Fox News, so it must be true. Well, Mr. Aiken, we say fuck you.
Skibberoo, Skibberoo, listen to the children while they play. Ain't it kind of funny what kids will say? Skibberoo, Daddy hates Mama, Mama hates Dad. Last night you should have heard the fight they had. Gave little sister another bad dream. She woke us all up with a terrible scream. Skip-a-rope, skip-a-rope, listen to the children while they play. Ain't it kind of funny what kids will say? Skip-a-rope. Cheat on your taxes, don't be a fool. What is that they said about the golden rule? Never mind the rules, just play to win. And hate your neighbor for the shade of his skin. Skip a rope, skip a rope, listen to the children while they play. Ain't it kind of funny what kids will say? Skip a rope, stab 'em in the back, that's the name of the game. And Mama and Daddies are the ones to blame. Skip a rope, skip a rope, listen to the children while they play. It's really not very funny what children say.